Hello there. My name's David, and I teach and play the bass. And I'm here to talk to you today about a couple really important aspects of playing your instrument. We're going to start by how to hold the bass, just in case you forgot over the summer. Okay, so I'm currently standing with my bass. Okay, you'll notice that it's not super duper upright right now. Okay, I want to have it at a slight angle to me, and then you want this back corner of your bass set right against the pocket of your hip. Okay, there should be a little groove right there, and that's where I like to rest the back corner of my bass. Now you're not going to be able to hold it up entirely on its own. You're going to need to support it a little bit. I like to do this with my thumb. Some bass players like to lean the instrument a little bit more forward so that the weight is in the fingers. Your choice. I think as you're getting started though, keeping it back here on the thumb is important. Okay? So that's standing with your bass. You always want to have your feet firmly planted. I tend to favor my left foot just a little bit. That's a bad habit I've developed over the years. So I've been trying to focus on putting more weight into my right foot as I've been practicing my standing this summer. But you want balanced feet. I like to have my right foot a little slightly forward, and I like to stand about shoulder length apart. So that's standing with your bass. Now if you're going to sit, I have my stool right here. Before you even bring the bass to you, you want to make sure that your body is nice and aligned. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit and just bend my hips forward. So nothing in my upper body is going to change. I'm just going to sit down on my stool right here. And my upper body is going to stay in nice, good alignment as I do that. Okay? Now, you can have both feet on the floor. You can have your left foot up on a stool. I like using a shorter stool because I can either have both feet on the floor, or I like to prop my left foot up on a yoga block. These are super cheap. Bug your teacher to buy one for you, because when you prop your foot up, it gives you something to rest the bass against. By having my left leg elevated, I can rest the bass against it more comfortably and naturally. So that way, when I bring the instrument to me, it's nice and even posture. And you'll notice how the neck is nice and even with my body, and it makes a nice, sensible looking posture. Okay? Now I'm going to angle this down a little bit so that you can see my bridge, and we're going to talk about end pin length really quick. Okay? Now, when you set your end pin length, there are two things you should be looking for. The first thing is when you put your first finger down on the D string to play E, you're going to want that first finger pretty close and even to your left ear. See how if I have this finger down, I can just stick it straight in my ear? Okay? That's a good way to indicate whether or not you have the bass set up well. The other way is that if you take both arms and reach forward, you should be able to knock your knuckles right about the middle of the string between the end of the fingerboard and the start of the bridge. You should be able to knock that a little bit. If your bass is too high, you're not going to be able to reach around the shoulders. And if it's too low, you're not going to be able to reach down here. And eventually, you're going to be playing down here, and you want to be able to reach all range of the instruments. Once you have it set up, just start moving your arm up and down the fingerboard like this. I like to polish the fingerboard. This is what I call it with my bass students. And I like to just have them polish the fingerboard between the D and the A string so that your elbow never touches the bass. Okay? And you can try that. This also helps set you up well for when you start learning vibrato. Okay? Okay. So we've got our end pin set up. We've got our good seated posture or standing posture, if that's what you want. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the shape of your left hand. Okay? And I want you all to try this with me. This is called the bass player salute. This is how we form our left hands. I want you to take your left hand. I want you to stick your thumb in your ear. Then rotate that hand around and put your pinky on your chin. Put your long finger on the tip of your nose and put your index finger or pointer finger between your eyes. Now gently take that frame off, and then there's your bass frame. And you put that right on the neck of the bass. When you put your hand down, you're going to want to keep your thumb about even with your long finger. Okay? Your thumb will move from time to time, and that's okay. Every thumb is different. But as a general rule, you want to keep your thumb even with your second finger. Okay? So we got our good left hand. We got our good posture. What's left next is the bow. Okay? I'm going to show you both French and German bow so that it's real nice and clear. We'll start with the German bow. Okay? take the bow in your left hand, and you have the big frog. Make sure your bow is tight enough. And you're going to hold your hand out palm to the ceiling. And then you're going to stick the edge of the frog here into the fleshy part of your hand. Okay? And you're going to let it rest right there. You're going to take your thumb and bend it and put it on the flat spot on top of the stick. Right here. Then with your remaining fingers, you're going to take your pinky finger, curl it under, and stick it right on the silver part. This is called the ferrule of your bow. With your long finger, you're going to rest it on the side of the stick on another flat part, and rest your index finger right on top of it. Find some sort of comfortable combination of that for you. Your ring finger is just going to hang out in space. It shouldn't be touching anything. It might feel weird at first, but you will get used to it. What you don't want to do is tuck it in so that it's holding the frog, because that'll create tension up your arm. Okay? And then you set the bow about halfway between the bridge and the fingerboard and just take a nice open string. Okay? And you should be able to have a nice, gentle, even curve to your bow arm from frog to tip. Okay? Let's talk about that French bow now. Okay? On my French bow here, which many of you may have, you're going to hold your hand out with your palm facing the floor. And I call this one 4 to the floor because you want all 4 of your fingers facing the ground. Now I like to start with my pinky finger on the French bow hold. I like to stick it right in the middle of my frog. And then I like to put my long finger right at the end of the hair. I know you're told probably never to touch the hair, but having your long finger down here right at the end of the hair is right about where I want it. And then your index finger should be resting on the grip if you have one. Okay, and see how all my fingers are facing towards the ground? You want that, and you can just kind of flop your hand down onto the bow stick. With your thumb, on the back of the bow, there's a little bump here where the frog meets the stick, near the grip. Okay, you're going to want to take your thumb and bend it like this. And you're going to want to put the tip of your thumb right where that frog meets the stick. Then you've got your 4 on the floor. Okay. Then you've got your French bow grip. Okay? I like to do a couple windshield wipers with the French bow before I set it on the string. And then when you set it on the string, make sure it doesn't collapse like this. I see that happen a lot. Okay? You're going to want to keep that thumb bent so that you can keep all 4 of those fingers 4 to the floor and your palm facing down towards the ground. And then again, take a nice long down bow. So we've covered your basic setup, your standing and seated posture. We've talked about shaping the left hand. We've talked about how to hold the bow. Now as a bonus here at the end, I want to talk about this thing that I have on my bass, because I'm betting that your school basses don't have this one. So I'm a professional bass player. I get paid to play in orchestras, and a lot of professionals have this device on their bass, which is called a C extension. Now the lowest string on the bass is normally the low E string. Just like the highest string on the violin is their high E string. But the problem there is that a lot of music that was written by composers like Mozart and Beethoven have notes that actually go lower than this E, because the instrument is sometimes called the double bass, and the role was to double the cello part. And you cello players out there know that your lowest string is C. So what some fancy luthiers or people who work on instruments did is they created this extension that is an extension of my fingerboard. So instead of stopping here, it goes all the way to the scroll. And I have a special extra long string on here that allows me to play all the way down to a low C. For you piano players out there, that's the same C as the lowest C on the keyboard. Okay? Now what all these little levers do is I can put one of these levers down and it'll fix the pitch on a certain thing. So let's say that we're playing a D major scale. Normally, for bass players, when we do a 2-octave D major scale, we have to play open D and then open E. Well, with this, I can put one of my levers down and it'll fix this string on the pitch D. So now I have a low D. Play that that full D major scale in that range. I can also play it without the lever. I can just reach back and press the string down like any other point on the instrument. Okay. I usually put a lever down depending on what the key of the piece is. If the piece is in D, I usually use the D lever. If the piece is in C, I keep everything open. If the piece is in E minor, I put the E lever down. It just depends on what I need for that particular piece. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you learned something about the bass today and that you got a good refresher on your basics course. Your teacher knows how to get a hold of me if you have any further questions. And have a great school year. I know these times are strange, but I believe in the power of learning, whether it's in person or distant. And I hope that you continue to keep working on your instruments. Bye.